So we have completed the project charter. Let me just, as I promised, let's go through the project charter. Okay, so
Okay.
here is a scenario. So there's a company ABC who has a process X whose function is to reply to all the customer queries that are sent via email or mail. Now these letters are scanned and converted to emails, and all the emails are then sent to automated filter system, which allocates the email to various queues based on specific keywords and discards junk emails. These emails are then picked up by the processor for their respective queues for processing. Now, this filter system is not 100% foolproof and sometimes lead to incorrect allocation of email to the queues. In such a case, the processor spends time in reading and understanding the query and then manually reallocates the email to the correct queue. Now, this is leading to wastage of time, which is the login hours, and increased TAT for the customer, which is turnaround time. So the ask is to prepare a project charter, which would include business case, problem statement, goal statement, scope, and project plan to address this problem. Okay, so what do you think the problem here is? What is the CDQ or project Y that we are looking at?
The problem is that the filter is not sending it to the right location, so we're causing rework.
Okay. All right. So ideally, if you were the green belt, what would you want to do? You would want to
We'd want to limit the errors that the filter has.
mhm. Okay. So that is one way of looking at it. Second is so assuming that you don't have a control on the filter system,
Right.
right? So you want to fix it from the process end. So in that case, uh, you generally look at the incorrect allocation of the emails to queue. So wherein processors are manually reallocating the emails to the correct queue.
Right.
Okay, let's look at what we have done in the process. So if we look at the business case here, so what we are saying is the core function of process X is to reply to the customer sending their queries through letters or emails. Now, if you look here, so what is happening, there's a lot of transactions are getting reallocated because of incorrect allocation, right? So on an average, these many percentage of transactions are reallocated on a weekly basis, and this high percentage of reallocated transaction leads to rework, hence impact the turnaround time.
Right.
So there's a need to identify the reason and reduce reallocation of the emails to streamline process and reduce turnaround time, right? And so what is reallocation? Reallocation when the associate reassigns the transaction to a different person in case unable to resolve the query. Okay, so this is basically the business case where we have tried to define what reallocation would mean as well. So we have put together the operational definition, so that there is no ambiguity on the definition of reallocation. Okay, now the problem statement is, as per the data that we received from Jan 2010 to 10th March 2010, the total number of transactions were this many. These many were reallocated to different department, which would mean a total loss of these many login hours in terms of dollar amount, these many dollar. So the login hours we directly converted to the dollar value. And the target of the project, the goal would be to reduce the reallocation of transaction by 10% by this date without adversely impacting the quality. And the leading indicator, the indicator that will study that will tell us whether we have achieved what we wanted to was a reallocation percentage. Okay, then we have a define, measure, analyze, improve, and control the scheduled completion time and the actual completion time. You can increase it whenever there is a variance. You can put in a remark that this is the reason why there is a variance in that. And if you see here, because we know that the automated filter systems, which have been discarded by the system, we have kept it out of scope altogether, right? So we know that is the area that we are not touching at all in this particular process. And because we have put in project charter, everyone, all the stakeholders to whom this particular project charter would be presented to, it will be clear to them that, okay, this is the part of the process that we're trying to improve. And the system filter is something that is kept out of scope of this particular project.
Okay.
Okay, so we have tried to nail down or explain each and everything in the project charter. So yeah, very important document, and project charter is a living document throughout the duration of the project. Anytime you can go come back to project charter and amend it as well. So it is not that we have completed once and it'll be freeze. It's a living document. You can change it anytime during throughout the course of the project. All right, so this is the project charter for you, and then after you've done the project charter, some financial calculation of financial benefit. The more complicated one are the net present value, which takes into account the inflation rate as well, and then the ROI, which is income divided by cost into 100, which will give you the ROI percentage. And commonly, how we calculate is amount of login hours that you're saving, amount of effort that you're saving multiplied with the dollar rate. So, if it is a fixed, so there can be various kind of project. It can be a fixed cost project wherein the customer is paying you a fixed amount. So depending on the number of people you have deployed, you would be able to convert that fixed amount into an hourly cost, or they can be, another billing. There can be another billing type, which is time and motion, wherein you get paid for the amount of effort that you put in to do a particular activity, right? So if you have that time and motion billing, time and material billing, sorry, then you can directly convert your effort multiplied by the dollar value of T&M rate, and you would be able to get the dollar savings for the project. So it is very essential to do this projection at the beginning of the project, because it can help you get the buy-in. Suppose you're doing a project which is saying, you're getting that you would be able to save some about $100,000, $200,000 a year. People would want to straight away give you the approval so that you can start working on the project. All right.
Okay.
All right, so I will move ahead to the high-level process map. So there's the last step of define phase. So what you would do is you would define the process at a very high level. So SIPOC here stands for supplier, input, process, output, and customer, right? So process, at this point of time, you would explain the process at a very high level, 4 or 5 steps. It's a kind of a helicopter view of the process, so that people who are not associated with the project, associated with the process as well, they would be able to understand, what is it that you're trying to improve. Any process there would be certain input, because process is a series of steps which you take to convert the input into output, right? So any process would have an input, and every input there would be a supplier to that particular input. So after you have done the process, there would be output to the process. Now this particular process that we map here is the as-is process. Okay, so what is the output, and who is the customer or who is the consumer of that particular output? So you would need to list down everything, so that it helps you in 2 things. One, it helps clarifying the entire team, what are the boundaries of the process, who is benefiting from this particular process, and also it helps you to do the scoping of the project. Okay, so with that, we have completed the define phase. Let's quickly go over what we have covered and defined. So we covered VOC to CTQ.
Yep.
Right. So what is CTQ?
That's a measurable number.
Measurable number, right? So you get the VOC from the customer. There are various ways you can convert it into a CTQ, which is something measurable, right? Identification of project Y. Once you have identified the CTQ, you would know what is the metric. So project Y is the metric or the leading indicator of a project. Then you would put together the project charter. So what would project charter comprise of? What all information would be there in the project charter?
Product charter would have all of the what we're going to do, who's going to be the champion, and
Right.
who's going to be parts of the team, and define all
Right.
that.
So absolutely. So project charter would have 5 key things. One is the business case, the problem statement, goal statement, the timelines, and the scope of the project.
Right.
Okay. Timelines and scoping of the project. And then you would put together a SIPOC or COPIS. SIPOC stands for Supplier Input Process Output in Customer. COPIS, if you spell SIPOC backwards, it is COPIS. Okay. So by now, these are the things that you should be familiar with. One is quality and how it has evolved over a period of time. Two, process improvement methodology within the Six Sigma framework, which is DMAC and DME-DV. Do you remember what DMAC stands for?
Define, manage,
Measure.
define, measure,
Yep.
analyze,
Yep.
identify,
Improve.
and improve.
Yep.
And
Control.
Control. Yeah.
Right. So in define phase, you're trying to define, what you're trying to do. In measure, you're trying to measure, whatever you're trying to improve,
Right.
you're trying to measure with the data. In analyze, you're trying to find out all the potential causes which might be leading to, the problem in the project Y. And you would ascertain out of those potential, which one are the vital ones. Then once you've identified the vital X's, you would get on to the improve phase, wherein you would try to put together a solution for those vital X's that you have identified in the analyze phase. And once you have put together the solution, implemented the solution in control phase, you would control. You would basically control is all about sustainability of the solution. Okay. So DMAC, you would generally apply for existing process which needs improvement, and DMA-DV is something that you would do for a new process when you're trying to design a new process. Okay. And you would have, we've gone through what is voice of the customer and how do you convert the VOC into CDQ. The Kano model and its advantages. Do you remember 3 kind of customer needs as defined in Kano model?
There was the basic need, the wow factor or experience.
Right. So which is called delighter or
Delighter.
satisfier.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the third one is the performance need.
Performance.
Right. So
Which
basic.
is like basic. Yeah.
Yeah. So what is how would you define a basic need?
A basic need is what the customer expects in a product.
Right. If it is not there, you would be very happy. The first example that I took, I go and buy a cell phone, mobile. My basic need is that, cell phone's basic need is that it should be able to make or take calls. So if that need is not fulfilled, I'll be really dissatisfied. Right. Because I would not even check, that I can actually make or take calls from a mobile. Right. If I go and buy a car, I would not check whether the engine is there. It is given. It is the engine has to be there. I would not even go and check it. Right. I would not even say expected. I mean, I would not even bother, doing that. Then we have a performance need. The more of it, the better it is. Right. They gave an example, a cell phone battery. The longer it lasts, the more it is on the performance need. Right. Delighter is something I'm not even expecting. It's a wow factor. It is there. I'm suddenly happy. I go and buy a car. They say, you are our 100,000 customer. I offer you 20% discount. It's a delighter for me. Right. And I come and tell you, Scott, I'm getting 20% discount there. Why don't you go and buy your car from there? So now you're going there. You're already expecting it. It has become a basic need for you. Right. So this is how the needs, changes. So, and then we look at QFD, which is quality functional deployment. It is also called house of quality. right? And how we can help utilize household quality to, one, convert the VOC into CDQ, and second, to find the improvement or the solutions in the improved phase. Okay, and then we looked at defined phase deliverables, basically two deliverables, your project charter and the SIPOC or COPIS. Okay, it's some quiz time, and there's a slide I was trying to hide from you.
Okay.
So DMAC applies to, which one do you think is correct?
A.
Absolutely,
product.
existing process that needs improvement.
Yep.
Okay, which of these is not part of project charter?
Milestones. D.
Nope, milestones is there, SIPOC,
All right.
right?
So
Because it's a second
that.
deliverable in the defined phase. One is project charter, second is SIPOC.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so apparently I only have two questions for you, because I know you have understood all the other concepts.